Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them Georgia obnoxious Georgia fans. Them Georgia obnoxious Georgia fans. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Tonight, we have brought back Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered to talk about the upcoming college baseball season. It starts in 12 days. But before we get into that, how have y'all been? What are you drinking? Chris?
Guys, I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me. It's always a pleasure and excited to talk some Dogs baseball. Obviously, last year, Georgia was one of the best stories in the country with Wes Johnson's club and how far they made it. Nearly made an appearance in Omaha. Tonight, I'm sipping on water, though, funny enough. Nothing exciting. Yeah, I thought about cracking open a bottle of wine, or I've got some whiskey downstairs. I guess I should have come more well prepared, but no, I'm being boring tonight with the water. But anyways, guys, like you mentioned, man, excited to be on in 12 days till college baseball. It's one of the best times of the year, so really pumped to talk.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. I might be even more boring. I got the remnants of a protein shake, and I have a bottle of water with a fiber supplement in it because I'm getting up there in age. Gotta get that supplement where I can.
Listen, Georgia hasn't lost a baseball game yet. There's no need to crack open the hard stuff quite yet. Right? I mean, nobody's lost a series. Nobody's given up a home run or walked a guy. So,
well, there hasn't been any Georgia. There hasn't been any Georgia sports from January 2nd until Valentine's Day, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Nothing's been going on at all.
Well,
so no reason.
There were some bright spots in between.
No.
I mean, I think Georgia's probably a tournament team on the hardwood. They got to win some games down the stretch, but they're fighting. They're on the bubble.
They are.
For a team just trying to get back to realizing what the sport of basketball is, this is not the conference you want to be in when you're trying to relearn how to play a sport.
Like SEC 10 years ago, sure, not like a 12 to 14 team.
Funny enough, I was actually at the game over this weekend of us chatting right now. I was at that Bama Georgia game in Tuscaloosa. It's funny enough, I went to another Bama Georgia game in Tuscaloosa, but I mean Georgia got trounced.
Stop doing that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Bama's one of the best teams in the country. So I mean, it's Mike White has brought Georgia basketball a good ways. We're talking about Georgia basketball kicking off the month of February, having a chance to go to the dance. So it could be worse. But to your point, a lot of optimism for opening day, I know, in Athens, and a lot of excitement, man. I mean, I think back to 2019, 2020 when Emerson Hancock and those guys were in Athens, and it's a shame what happened, obviously, with COVID in 2020 and the season getting taken away, because that Georgia team realistically could have won the national championship with some of the dudes they had. But outside of that, man, this is as high as expectations as I can recall for Georgia in the preseason, being ranked in the top 15 preseason. Some polls out there have them in the top 10. One's got them in the top 5 in the preseason. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, the expectations are sky high. I think Georgia, for the focus for them, obviously getting to Omaha for the first time since 2008 when Gordon Beckham was on the diamond. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting, and I'm really, really fascinated to see how Wes Johnson and company obviously follow up year one, a really successful year one, where I think, guys, they came to nowhere. We had this same conversation, I think, a year ago at this time when I said if you just make the postseason in year one, it's a successful year, and they did a lot more than that, obviously.
Yeah, man, you called it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see him being that good, I'll be honest, but I mean, listen, Charlie Condon, that lineup, the pitching held on for dear life, but the offense just at every turn, man, was able to bail them out when needed. And I mean, that was a really fun Georgia team. And I'll be honest with you, we had 4 SEC teams in Omaha. I was there, had a blast. That was my first ever Omaha experience. I was sad, though, that we did not have a 5th team in Georgia. That would have been a really fun team to see in Omaha. But yeah, I mean, streaks are meant to be broken, man. It's been a long time. 2008 was a long time ago. So we'll see if the Dogs can do it.
So getting into the rankings just a little bit, is there one ranking or one poll that you like more than the others, or is it just kind of a free for all? Because it seems like baseball and softball, it's just if you have two guys that write on a website, you can have a poll that's recognized by the NCAA.
Yeah, John, I typically lean into the D1baseball.com poll. Those are guys that, and it's no shot at any of the other entities, but I think D1, the difference with them and why I give their opinions and their insight a little bit more credit. Those guys actually go on the road in the fall and they've seen these teams. I think there's something to be said for, if you've seen a roster or you've seen a group of guys, you've actually seen them, and I know it's scrimmages or inter squads, but it's more than some of these other publications are doing out there, right? So I lean into D1baseball.com the most. Again, I think those guys probably, when it comes to the in-depth analysis, which again is what you really need and you will lean on to try to do something like make a preseason top 25 in the sport of college baseball, which is, people talk about how meaningless it is in football. I mean, it is really difficult in college baseball to nail that down and really decipher who the 25 best teams are. But yeah, D1's the one I lean into. But, to your point, John, and I mean, listen, Perfect Game does a good job. Baseball America does a good job. There's some other entities out there, others as well, independents, that do a good job. But D1's the one I lean into the most. I would probably say this, and I have no problem saying it. Perfect Game probably had the drunkest rankings in my mind. Some of their, all due respect, man, and I think Georgia's going to be a good team, but having the Dogs preseason top 5 is just crazy to me. Having Texas in the preseason top 10 is crazy to me. There were some of their rankings that I didn't really understand. But either way, to each their own. It is what it is. D1's actually the one that is recognized by the NCAA and I guess ESPN, and when SEC, when you're watching college baseball on TV and you see a ranking, it is there. So I'll give the guys over at D1 credit. Again, the fact that they travel from school to school, they go watch inter squads, they see these teams in person. And I think if a lot of people are honest, obviously there's people that cover individual schools, John, like you guys and others, and you guys are able to get intel and maybe be there in Athens and watch, and so but I think for a lot of us nationally, if folks are being honest, I think a lot of people lean on D1 to get the scouting reports and the insight, because with all the movement, and you go look at the rosters now, I mean, everybody's adding 4 or 5 transfer portal bats to their lineup. You're adding so many pitchers, so many new players. It's hard to keep up. Those guys do a good job. So that's the one I lean into. But to your point, man, it's a bit of a crapshoot. Heck, our guy Harrison Cordell Fant, who's my co-host on our bi-weekly SEC baseball show, The Windup, he dropped his own top 25 today as we speak. So everybody's got a top 25, my man. It'll be exciting to watch it play out.
I will say I had to look up the Perfect Game rankings while you were talking about it. They have five teams last year that didn't finish the season ranked in their top 15. One of those is number 2 LSU. And then,
well, I will say this: most every poll has got LSU in that spot. So
11 Florida, 12 Arizona, 14 Oregon, 15 Vanderbilt all finished the season.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, listen, I think a lot in college baseball, probably more than any other sport, if you're a historically good program, you are going to get the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? Like, it's LSU. You expect LSU to reload. It's kind of like, why is Kentucky not ranked, but LSU's ranked second, or Vandy's ranked 15th, or Florida's where they are? Well, again, it's because Kentucky's not a blue blood. I don't think anybody, is really expecting. It's like, okay, that was a nice story last year, but can they really do it again? Like, let's be honest. Like, Kentucky's not a baseball school. Like, LSU is, Florida is, Vanderbilt is, Mississippi State is. So there's more benefit of the doubt, I think, given to those schools that, well, it's LSU. They're going to reload. It's Florida. They're going to reload. It's whatever school, enter whatever school it is. So, again, the preseason polls, I like them. They're fun to talk about, but, I don't think they're going to change a lot. That's the whole point. They're going to change a lot, and it's all going to sort itself out in the field.
All right, so just a quick recap of the season. I know we kind of talked about this here and there so far, but last season the Diamond Dogs went 43-17 overall, 17-13 in the SEC, and were 1 win away from Omaha and head coach Wes Johnson's first year. Georgia lost some dogs, pun totally intended. First rounder Charlie Condon went to Colorado. Fernando Gonzalez, Corey Collins, just to name a few. Wes Johnson hit both the high school recruiting and the transfer portal hard before the season, to the point where various college baseball publications have Georgia's preseason ranking anywhere from 4 to 14th. but the Dogs landed 5 of Baseball America's top 100 transfers. So with all that said, who do you think will help fill the void, the huge void of production left by Charlie Condon?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. That's the $1 million question going into the season for Georgia. And I mean, who can? I mean, he was just so special, man. I
Yeah.
mean, it seemed like every time you recall, obviously early in the season, the guy just every time Georgia played, it was, I think he had that consecutive game streak with a home run or whatever. And every time they needed a big swing of the bat, it seemed like he came up big. And especially for a team that, I mean, it felt like last year with Georgia, no lead was safe. They'd be up 6-7-0 in the 8th inning, and man, the bullpen would just find a way to make it a game for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, replacing him, I use kind of a Moneyball reference. I don't know that one guy can replace him, right? But can 2 or 3, a few guys, can you kind of put them together, and 2 or 3 guys can replace the production that you lost in one guy in Charlie Condon? Because nobody on that roster, probably nobody in college baseball, is going to be Charlie Condon. Realistically, if you find him, great, but he's a one of one. You mentioned Fernando Gonzalez, Corey Collins, another. I mean, listen, Georgia's got a lot of talent coming back, especially in the lineup. They're going to hit, and they're going to hit. I think that's not going to be a problem. You mentioned on the transfers. I mean, I was looking at the numbers, man. 16 transfers is what Georgia added. A lot of those in the top 100, like you mentioned. I love the kid Christian Adams. They added out of Florida Atlantic, hit 343 for the Owls, 8 home runs. Zabrowski, the kid out of Miami of Ohio, hit 10 home runs, 305 for them. You had a Duke transfer, Kentucky transfer, UNC Asheville transfer, and then you got guys coming back again. I love Trey Phelps' game. I mean, obviously he made a big name for himself with the Bulldog mask and the celebrations in the dugout. I mean, dude, Colby Branch, Slate Alford, they both hit 17 home runs a season ago. So that's a pretty good foundation to start with. But back to your original question and to your point, can the offense get better losing not just its best player, not just the best player in the SEC, the best hitter in college baseball? I think that's the big question. I don't want to say it's impossible because, again, with some of these transfer portal guys you add, it could lead to a more well-rounded lineup. I mean, again, the kid Robbie Burnett, who went to UNC Asheville, transfers in. He had 18 bombs for them last year, hit 323. So, I mean, there's productivity. The kid from Duke, Obi, he had 16 home runs. So, like, there's a lot of power coming in. Foley Field is a very hitter-friendly park. But I do think Georgia offensively, guys, like, I think they're going to be fine. Are they going to have a Charlie Condon? Probably not. My bigger questions are around the pitching staff because they got a lot of guys coming back. But, I mean, guys, experience is a great thing, but you'd rather have good experience. You know what I mean? You look at the ERAs of guys. I'm excited for what Colton Smith can do. Obviously, he was their stud. Leighton Finley in the 2 spot on Saturdays. He was pretty good, 4.14. But you look at the kid they're adding from Ole Miss, JT Quinn, he had an 8.84 ERA. Zach Harris, your 4 guy at 6.87. You did pick up the VCU transfer and Brian Curley. But to me, that's going to be the big question. There's so many guys returning from last year that have these inflated ERAs that led to Georgia having to work a lot harder and depend on their offense to bail them out of some tough situations and win some games. And I think, guys, you can look at the supers. I mean, I think that was Georgia's undoing. At some point, it's like not having elite pitching is going to bite you in the rear end, and we saw that come up. So I think they're going to hit the baseball, and I trust, too, under Wes Johnson, though. He's a pitching guy. He's a pitching guru. How much can he assist this pitching staff taking the next step, or are we just going to see, hey, it's going to take some time for Wes Johnson to get his arms in there and go into the recruiting ranks? Because college baseball recruiting starts, when you're in 8th grade, a true freshman. It's crazy how early it starts. So I do think the pitching is going to improve in Athens, but how big of a jump it makes this season, I think, is probably going to dictate what the ceiling of this Georgia team is. They're going to be a postseason team again. They absolutely can host. How much further they get than that, I think, falls more on the pitching than the hitting this season, because I think they are going to hit.
So with Foley Field, they got some upgrades over the past offseason. One that we personally talk about a lot when it comes to every sport, changing an artificial surface. Do you think that an artificial surface is better or worse than grass for college baseball?
I hate it. I hate it. I'm not, it's one of those things, I guess, if you've traditionally had turf, like Texas has always had turf. It is what it is. I don't know any different. But for Georgia, I don't know why you go turf. I don't understand it. I'm not a fan. The one thing I will say, it helps the offense. It's absolutely going to help the offense because, balls are going to get out of the infield a lot quicker, right? You're not going to have grass to. I mean, listen, there's some fields that play fast and there's some fields that play slow. I know that sounds weird, but it is a real thing. There's some places you go and you're like, man, we just can't get anything out of the infield. It's just slowing down, slowing down. I do think it's going to help the offense for Georgia. I don't think I've ever met a baseball player that preferred playing on turf to grass, though. So I'm not a huge fan. Listen, I'm glad Georgia obviously is investing in Foley Field. We're at the place where it's always a facilities arms race, and college baseball stadiums are no different. I mean, you look at the work being done across the country. I mean, it's just some of these venues are crazy. I mean, they're absolutely nuts, right? I mean, I kind of laugh because I was in Tuscaloosa over the weekend, and you go to Sewell Thomas, and it's like it's not a bad ballpark. Like it's a pretty decent college ballpark, but it's a middle of the packish park in the SEC because the facilities are so outrageous and people are pouring so much money into said facility. So I think Georgia understands that. Foley Field has always been one, guys. Let's call it for what it is. It's been near the bottom of the rankings when it comes to like best ballparks in the SEC. I think more probably due to a size issue than anything. It just when you only seat, what was it?
Like 3,000. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like 3,500 or whatever. And you got venues in the SEC that are seating 8, 9, 10,000. Well, I mean, you're at a disadvantage there. So, I think with the excitement Wes Johnson's built within this program, I think expanding Foley Field, upgrading Foley Field, investing in the program makes a lot of sense. Because, guys, again, I think we may have talked about this a year ago to the date. I've never understood why Georgia doesn't have maybe not an elite baseball program, but a consistently top 25 baseball program. I mean, when you think about the talent in the state of Georgia on the diamond, I mean, it's right there. I'm glad they were investing in it. College baseball, admittedly, guys, I thought was more fun with Georgia being good last year, and it makes the SEC better just top to bottom. So I love the investments in Foley Field. I'm not a big turf guy. And again, I haven't met a ton of baseball players that they'd prefer to play on turf than grass.
They can do whatever upgrades they want to Foley Field, but if they take Kudzu Hill away, we riot.
Beating trees.
There's some things that are sacred, all right? Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I really am excited to see it.
So is there a team in the SEC that is, or how many teams, I should say, are clearly better than Georgia going into the year?
Yeah, I mean, I would say right now there's a few. A&M's the best team in college baseball on paper going in the season. Does it play out? Do they go to the College World Series? Do they win it all? Who knows? It's baseball. It's a round bat. It's a round ball. Anything can happen. So, but on paper, they have the most talent. And I think A&M, you've seen them. They're number one in every preseason poll, even with a first-year head coach of Michael Early after the whole Jim Schlossnagle fiasco. But I think deservedly preseason number one. So I would say Texas A&M. Right now, I would say LSU. I just think in regards to top-end talent, potential major league talent, I would put LSU ahead of Georgia. I would maybe put Florida ahead of Georgia. There's questions there as well, but I think I probably at this point trust Florida's pitching a little more. And then I think that's kind of where you get into the Georgia range. I'm not as high on Tennessee going in the season as some folks. I think Tennessee's a little bit overrated, if you want an honest opinion. And I know Vol Twitter.
They normally are.
I would say not Tennessee. No,
Tennessee they're overrated? No.
Well, I mean, listen. And I love Tony Vitello, and they're reigning national champions, and they just lost a lot, man. And like you lose guys like Drew Beam off the bump, and Blake Burke, and Semo, Christian Moore, and man, it is just that was the core, the nucleus of that ball club, and it's not just as simple as, well, we got some really good guys coming in. We'll just plug and play. They're going to be really, really talented for sure. But I don't know. I got to see it. I mean, maybe I'd give Tennessee the slight edge to Georgia, but it's kind of like that next group for me. When I'm talking about when I'm trying to kind of power rank the SEC, you know, I'd probably put Arkansas ahead of Georgia just because the pitching's so dominant. And I'm a believer in great pitching beats great hitting every single time. Most of the times, at least. Arkansas is proof that you could choke that away in the postseason more years than not. Um, so I'd probably give Arkansas the nod ever so slightly. I just think again, Georgia's going to hit. The questions revolve around the pitching staff. That's the big thing for me. But I mean, I think Georgia guys, and I guess about a week or week and a half from today, going into opening day, and every single week I'll drop my power rankings going into opening day, and we'll do that on a weekly basis. And so right now, just off the top of my head, I'd probably put Georgia around that 4 or 5 spot, probably. I think there's 3 or 4 teams right now that I feel confident in saying are better than Georgia. Again, LSU, A&M, Arkansas, and I'll go Florida. I'm going to go Florida instead of Tennessee. I think Georgia and Tennessee probably neck and neck right now. I mean, fault me if you will. I'm a big Kevin O'Sullivan guy, and I think it really says a lot when you have the year they did. They were so bad in the regular season, and they still get to Omaha. So that's one of those programs, guys, I'll admit, I give them the benefit of the doubt because Kevin O'Sullivan's that good. That program's been that good under his leadership. He's 9-0 in super regionals. He's taken that program to 9 college World Series. People don't realize how good he's been and how elite Florida baseball has been. So I'll give them the nod too, but it's only a handful, 3 or 4 teams I put right now ahead of Georgia. And again, I think that bodes pretty well for the Dogs going into opening day. We'll see if how much noise they can make and how much they can climb that ladder as the season goes.
So, big picture stuff. SEC Unfiltered has visited a ton of campuses this past year. Which campus wowed you the most, and which was the most underwhelming?
I feel like you're asking me this because you know what the answer is going to be. I went on record during the season and said that Athens is the best college town. So if you're saying campus,
okay,
but
correction to get an answer other than Athens. All right.
Because I gave the nod.
Which surprised you the most?
Okay. Dude, you know what's funny, though? I posted that clip after I went to, ironically enough, the Georgia-Tennessee game for the football season. Posted the clip. I'm standing on it. Athens is the best college town in the country. There's no college town better than Athens. I still, months later, get comments on that of people that are like, no way, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. People still comment on that. So there's people that are very passionate about that disagree. But I stand.
What SEC towns are they saying are better? Is my biggest question.
I mean, listen, I would tell you, I think the ones that are really, really that would compete with Athens. And you might disagree with me. I love Knoxville as a college town. Love it. Love Knoxville. I think downtown Knoxville is beautiful. Love just that area. I think Knoxville, Tennessee is a beautiful place. I think Tuscaloosa is an awesome college town. I loved my time in Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa is one that kind of surprised me because I had so many Auburn fans tell me how terrible it was going to be.
See, everything I've ever heard is you have like a small college town feeling area and then just a bunch of chain stuff all over the place.
Well, I kind of like the fact there's more. It's a college town, but there is some substance to it. There's actually stuff to do. I mean, to your point, yeah, you go a certain way, and there's all your chain stuff, whatever. But I like Tuscaloosa a lot. I love it. I think it's an awesome place. Downtown's awesome. There's a piece of my heart will forever live in Innisfree, the bar down there. Great place. Oxford's another great college town. Auburn's a great college town. I mean, those are some of the places I think. Most of them, I think the fan bases, which is fine. I mean, everybody's going to say theirs is the best. I mean, I would expect no different. The one that again surprised me. I mean, I say Tuscaloosa. College Station's another one. Kind of surprised me just because I don't know that there was a trip that there were more people talking shit before I went than College Station because people just that aren't A&M fans hate A&M because of the cultish behavior and the weird stuff. Yeah, the pump-a-mags, gig-a-mags, the weird stuff. But College Station's fun. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in College Station.
I've never met an A&M fan that I don't like.
I think they're really good people. I think they're awesome people. I mean, listen, they are weird. They're a little weird,
Yes.
but they know they're weird, and that's okay. They're unapologetically themselves, and I can respect that. So, yeah, those would be the ones. I mean, I guess, like I said, surprising, I guess, College Station because, of what I've heard going in, there's nothing there. And it's, you can tell they poured a lot into that city to make it, to kind of beef it up a little bit. So, yeah, those would be the ones. I saw so many great places, man. I really did. I mean, LSU was my best overall experience. I've that's well documented, just from everything, the food, the people, the tailgating, the game, the stadium, and again, this was for football specifically. So, but Baton Rouge is a wild place. Louisiana is a one of one. I mean, it's just there's nothing like it. But again, I loved Athens. The tailgate, the Morris Hall tailgate treated me really, really well. We tailgated together in Atlanta too for the SEC title. So, yeah, I got a lot of love for the Dogs, man. But here's the thing, and I know this isn't a cop out answer, but all those college towns, they're all really cool and unique in their own way. And I think that's what makes the SEC really cool is the different cultures and the people that embody them and the cities that make these towns that make, kind of what these environments are. And it's really cool. So we're obviously back on the road this year, and we've been to 2 basketball games, and we'll be hitting a lot of baseball, a lot of basketball, maybe some spring football here and there, some spring games, and obviously going into the fall, we'll be back on the road for 15 plus straight weeks, going to a different game every week. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, maybe somebody can change my mind on the college town thing.
We're not going to be able to get you to say anything negative about one of these towns, are we?
I mean, they were all great. That's what I'm saying. Like if there was one that was just terrible, I would tell you.
Have you been to Starkville? I've never heard anything positive about
I haven't.
Starkville.
I've never heard anything positive about Starkville. No, you make a very good point. We did not make it there last year, as you can imagine, because they were 2-10. I mean, there was never reason to go. But yeah, I've never heard anybody heap praise on Starkville as a place to go. So
I know someone that went to the Georgia Mississippi State game a couple years ago when it was in Starkville. And they said they drove through Starkville not realizing they ever got there. Like they had to turn around and then like pull out an actual map to be like, oh, we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I haven't heard a lot of good things, but I would probably say, man, the most picturesque out of a movie college towns, Athens, and then I'd say Oxford. Like the square is like Hallmark movie. I mean, it's like if you were starting a template for a college town, the square in Oxford is kind of where you would begin. So, but again, they're all unique in their own way. I mean, listen, dude, I'm a city guy, so I loved Nashville and I loved Austin. To be honest with you, they're not
one of my favorite cities on the planet.
Yeah, they're not college towns. I certainly wouldn't. They wouldn't put it in that category. But those are great places to go.
Yes.
So, but yeah, no, it's. I don't see. It's funny as I was going on the tour, obviously last fall. People wanted me to power rank, like, what's been your worst experience? And I'm like, y'all know this. I give critical opinions. I'm very unapologetically, opinionated in myself, and I don't shy away from saying maybe something that's an unpopular opinion. But I really don't. There wasn't an experience where I was like, man, that place just kind of sucked. I mean, the only one I would say that it was a little underwhelming, but not, and it turned out to be one of my favorite trips. And it wasn't underwhelming because the people or the place, but maybe Arkansas, because that fan base has been beaten to a pulp. And you could just kind of feel in the air. I went for the Tennessee game, which we know how it went, but the day of the game, they're like, man, like we're just going to get our heart broke again. So the tailgate was a little subdued. It was still fun. I mean, it was the only place I saw somebody snort vodka. So they were having a good They were having a good time. I mean, there's no doubt.
That doesn't sound like a good time.
Well, if they did it, I didn't do it. It was a good time to watch. I would never do that. But and it ended up being a great time, right? I mean, Arkansas beats Tennessee. It's one of the best upsets of the season. That's the only one where I'd be like, it was because, and two, that Arkansas trip was sandwiched in between Bama, Georgia, and Tuscaloosa, and LSU, Ole Miss in Death Valley. So it's like, the atmosphere compared is like, it's hard to live up to those. But Yeah, man. I mean, and then I'd probably say Vandy was like the least SEC feeling. There's 27,000 people in the stadium, but see, Vandyville were great. They were awesome, man. So
I'm pretty sure. Well, you went to the game this year. I'll ask you. Do you still have to wear like a safety vest and a hard hat to go to the game?
not quite. No, they
Oh,
are doing
okay.
construction, but not quite. No, it's
Oh, okay.
I will say though, it's when that was my first time going to Vandy, and I mean, I was told there was construction, but like it's a war zone of construction.
Well, in 2023, the visitors' locker room was a tent behind the scoreboard crane.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's amazing they've been playing games there. I put it that way. But again, the guys over in Lot 2, man, they were awesome, man. It's really cool because people pick on Vandy, and fair enough, but they got fans just as passionate as anybody else in the SEC. Like there are Vandy fans that have been showing up year after year after year after year watching 2-10. And so like I was so happy for them all season to
Yeah.
see just a semblance of a winner. You know what I mean? Like a 7-win season in Nashville is a huge deal. So those are great people, man. But
If
no,
only
it
they would
was
do something about the Whistler.
yeah. I don't know. I think there's even mixed reviews within the fan base. So
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what I've read.
the Whistler, it's funny. I've never experienced the Whistler in person, but I will definitely be going to Nashville for a baseball series, and we're going to go to the SEC tournament in Hoover. And so I will. I'll give you an update on my thoughts on the Whistler because
I would love to see if you could interview him.
yeah. Well, I mean, dude, we'll have the vlog going. All I got to do is walk up and just ask him some questions. I mean,
That's if
you know,
he answers you. I've heard he's not the most pleasant person.
Imagine.
yeah. So
All
I don't
right,
know.
where were we?
Talking Georgia baseball, I guess, man. Dude, it's and again, I will tell you, man, I'm excited. We're going on the road to all these different baseball venues as well. So I went to Foley last year, and it was a non-conference series. So, but we'll be all over the road, man. I don't know exactly when we'll see Georgia, but we will make a trip to Foley Field. It's a very easy trip for me, only about an hour and a half down the road right now, and yeah, I mean, I think the dogs are going to be worth watching, man. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
This year there's it's the first time since 2021 that we'll be getting the opportunity for the G Day weekend trifecta with G Day, baseball and softball all being in Athens.
Really? So is the spring game going to happen like at a certain time, and then baseball will start like later?
So the way they used to be really good about doing it to where you could go to like an 11 a.m. softball game, a 1 p.m. baseball game, and then G Day. And I don't, because they haven't done it on the same weekend and since 2021, I don't know how they're going to do it.
Hmm.
But my hope would be, because the baseball game is at 1 o'clock, make G Day a night game, 11 a.m. softball, and just let me waste way too much time and money in Athens. It's my goal.
We might have to make the trip, man. I mean, like I said, we're going to be going to some spring games, so like those are always the best trips if we can double dip and kind of knock out multiple sports in one visit.
Yeah.
That's always ideal. So yeah, who knows? You might, we're going to figure it out as we go. We've got a lot to do in the next coming weeks and months. Obviously, March Madness upcoming. We'll be doing tons of stuff with that, and we've actually got a few baseball trips coming up. I'm spoiled to surprise everybody. We haven't announced it yet, but I'm going to Arlington opening weekend for that tournament out there. Texas is in it. Ole Miss is in it. I think the second weekend I'm going to Jacksonville for the Jacksonville Baseball Classic. Alabama's in that. Teams like Coastal, NC State, and Ohio State are in that. And then I think the third weekend, the final weekend of February, we are going to go to y'all's second favorite place in the SEC, Gainesville, to watch Florida and Miami, which will be a great series. Watch them play. And again, that's another scenario where baseball series that weekend, Saturday night basketball game at home. So we'll be able to kind of knock out both. And from there, we're off and running, man. So, March, again, a lot of March Madness, but we will be getting to Athens, no doubt, this spring. And we'll let you guys know when it is.
All right. So overall, who is your pick to win the SEC this year?
Put me on the spot, man, because it's funny. We'll Thursday of this week we'll do our full season preview and predictions, and we'll do our predicted
If you're
order.
not committed to a pick, you can give us two teams.
Okay, I will because it's it's easy to go back and forth with this, and I'll give you probably two teams. I hate doing that, but I haven't. The one thing I haven't done, I feel like I know the teams pretty well, but I haven't really looked at the schedules, which I think is really important to see who's playing where, who's at what place, who hosts who. Um, and also let's remember we don't have East and West, right? We
Yep.
don't have an East and West, so it's all
Hmm.
16 teams. Who wins the SEC? Texas A&M is the low-hanging fruit, right? Preseason number one, most talented team in the country. Most notably, I believe they host LSU at the end of the season. See, now I'm just looking up the schedule. I believe they host LSU. That's a big one for them. Let me see here. Just had it pulled up. They're at Tennessee beginning of April, which is a really, really big series. They're at Arkansas middle of April. That's a big one. At Texas. And then they host LSU they're at Georgia. They close out their season, actually, at
Let's
Georgia.
go.
That will be a big series. So I'll give you this. I'll give you my favorite and my dark horse. My favorite is A&M, just from a talent perspective. But you know who I got a right mind to pick the SEC or to win the SEC? And they're on my shit list, believe it or not. This team is on my shit list going into the season. The Arkansas Razorbacks. Because that's what they do. That's what Arkansas does. They will go 21-9, 22-8, 20-10 might be good enough to win the SEC this year with how deep it is and just how tough it's going to be, how competitive. Whatever. They'll go 21-9 in the regular season. They will win the SEC, and they will blow it in the postseason. It is like clockwork. And the thing with Arkansas, are they going to hit enough? If Arkansas is I'll tell you this. If they are guys, they were second to last in batting average in conference play last year. Mizzou was dead last. If they are middle of the pack in SEC batting average, they're winning the conference. If you told me that right now, they're winning the conference because they're going to pitch. They're going to pitch. They're going to have one of the best ERAs in the conference. So I got a right mind to pick Arkansas. I don't think LSU's a bad pick either. But again, my favorite would be A&M. They are the most talented. You told me right now they win the conference, I'd say, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, they got everybody back. They're loaded. I mean, they're that team, they could have no head coach and they'd be hosting a regional. That's how talented they are. So I'm not worried about the first-year head coach thing. My dark horse is Arkansas, and my pick, honestly, might be Arkansas. But they're on my shit list. I'm telling you, Arkansas is on my shit list. I do not have Arkansas going to Omaha. And the reason they're on my shit list, that probably would be good context. Last year, start of the postseason, we made our picks. Who's going to win the national title? I went with Arkansas. And they lost to freaking SEMO in their own regional. So I'm like, you know what? You pissed me off.
Great reason for them to be on a shit list.
You pissed me off. Like you choke every time. And I love Hog fans. Like I said, their fan base has been beaten to a pulp. That's why I was so happy. To see them beat Kentucky in basketball. I was like, man, that fan base just needs some good stuff to happen. They really do. So I would love to see Arkansas break through for that fan base, get back to Omaha, win the ultimate prize. Dave Van Horn is one of the best coaches in the country, just doesn't have a ring. But, I mean, at some point you are who you are. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this might be what Arkansas needs. Somebody doubting them a little bit, but it will not shock me at all if the Hogs are the best team in the conference in the regular season. Beyond that, what does it mean for them in the long run? I don't know, but yeah, they'd be my dark horse. So A&M or Arkansas, probably the direction I'll go. And A&M just, again, guys, A&M feels too boring. It's just too easy. And this is baseball, man. It's baseball. Like, is it just going to go chalk? I mean, I doubt it, man. I mean, you look at A&M's schedule, closing it out at Georgia. Again, April's a gauntlet for them. And you got that
They got
LSU
a series against Arizona too.
Yeah, I think in that tournament or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they got to go to Vandy. Yeah, they open conference play. They got to go to Vandy. Kentucky's at home. They got to go to Tennessee. South Carolina's at home. Probably should take care of business. To Arkansas. To Texas. LSU. Mizzou will be easy. I say that, easy. To Georgia. So, that's a pretty tough schedule. At Arkansas, at Texas, at Georgia, LSU, at Tennessee. It's a hard schedule, guys. So, that's the beautiful thing about college baseball. We never know. There's so many questions, but yeah, it'll be one of those two teams for me.
All right, I'm going to change this last question a little bit. How many SEC teams do you think can get to Omaha? Like you said, last year we had 4. Probably should have had 5 with Georgia, but obviously missed out there. But how many conference teams do you see getting to Omaha?
So right now, and I'll go ahead and give you my Omaha 8. We're actually dropping this on Monday, February the 3rd of this week. So this Monday. We're going to release our Omaha 8, who we're predicting to get there. I've got 4 SEC teams get into Omaha. Now, how many can get there? Shoot, I think there's A&M. These are teams I think are capable of making Omaha. A&M, LSU, Tennessee, Arkansas, Florida. I think Georgia's on that fringe. The pitching has to get better. It has to get better. Georgia, I think Mississippi State can get to Omaha. I don't know that Texas can. Again, Texas is going to hit the hell out of the baseball. Their pitching is very suspect. It's very suspect to me. So I'd put the number at 7 to 8-ish can make Omaha. And I say can. I mean, dude, Auburn loaded up in the portal. Butch Thompson has done it before. They could make Omaha. Maybe Paul Maneri's the spark South Carolina needs. They could. I don't think they have the talent, but they could. They've got the history and the track record. I didn't even mention Vanderbilt. Listen, I'm not high on Vandy this year. I'm selling stock on Vandy. I think Vandy might miss the postseason. They don't hit. But the way they pitch, and they have Tim Corbin, they probably could. But I'd probably set the number realistically at 7 or 8. My Omaha 8, I've got 4 teams from the SEC making Omaha. Florida, LSU, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. That's kind of my off the wall. I think Mississippi State under Chris Lemonis. I think Hunter Hines, a guy nobody is talking about. He's way too good of a player to not be getting more recognition. I've got 3 ACC teams. Clemson, who I think is going to be very good. Duke, fantastic program. They're due to get there. And Virginia, one of the best in the country. They can win the national title. And then I got 1 West Coast team, believe it or not. The Oregon Ducks. I think being in the Big Ten is going to benefit them significantly. I think their biggest issue in years past, they need to get a top 8 seed. They need to get a top 8 seed because the worst thing that can happen for them is kind of what happened last year, or is exactly what happened. They had to go to College Station for a super regional. And if they've got to go to an SEC site, it's going to be tough. But if they host, and let's say Vandy, or maybe it's Mississippi State or Ole Miss, maybe it's Georgia, and they got to go to Oregon. I almost said Autzen. They got to go to Oregon. Then I think Oregon's got a real shot, having to bring them over to the West Coast. So Oregon's just another program I think is going to break through at some point. They're knocking on the door, it seems like, every single year. But yeah, those are my Omaha. I think we're looking at 3 to 4 SEC teams representing in Omaha. There's others, like I said, man. I think 7 or 8 realistically could make it. If you told me Georgia made it, I wouldn't be shocked, and I'd love to see the Dogs there. First time since 2008. But I think it's going to be 3 to 4 that probably get in. And I think we're probably going to see that number about every single year with the expanded SEC. And I didn't even mention Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma could get there too. I mean, we don't think about OU a lot when it comes to baseball, but that's a really solid program. Skip Johnson's done a good job. They're going to hit the shit out of the baseball. So, yeah, I think you're probably going to see 3 to 4 SEC teams. The one I feel most confident getting to Omaha, I'd probably have to go A&M. They're just so talented, man. I mean, God, if they don't get to Omaha, it's you hate to say, man, it's a failed season, but with that talent they have, it really feels like Omaha or bust for them. So, anyways, I think 3 to 4 SEC teams probably get there, and man, it'd be something if the Dogs are one of them.
Yeah,
That it would.
We appreciate you coming on and talking to us again. I know you got to get out of here, so we'll go ahead and close it out. So we got a couple things to close up on. If you want to go ahead and get out of here, we appreciate it.
Yeah, John, Michael, it's always a pleasure, guys. I appreciate y'all. We'll definitely have to link up at Foley Field, man. And like I said, I'm grateful for the opportunity, man. I love college baseball. It's always a pleasure to jump on, and it's always fun. This is kind of a yearly thing. It lets me know that opening day is close, so I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
Yep, y'all be good. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Once again, we appreciate Chris coming on and talking to us. One of our favorite guests. I truly don't know anybody personally that knows more about college baseball than Chris. So it's always nice to have this conversation every year. Nomination period is over for Connect Savannah. Mike has been leading the way on that, so I
want to go back to back, man. We can't show that last year was a fluke. You finished the
I agree, but when do we know who made it to the next round?
So the actual voting round, I believe, starts on the 10th. So from when not this Monday when you guys are listening, but the following Monday, I think we will know. I think we find out the same time everybody else does.
I gotcha. Yeah, so it says February 10th to March 17th. Yeah, that's all it says. So we'll know at some point. But regardless, thanks for helping us get to the next round. If we did, if we didn't, you guys suck. Do better.
Dude, I want a plaque. I'm gonna spring for one this year. If we're lucky enough to get there.
If you guys help us, 1, we will kidnap Caleb. 2, Mike is buying a plaque.
Yeah, Caleb's gonna float down yonder on the Savannah River down to us.
There you go. But follow us on social media at all of the social media ones. Rate and review the show 5 stars. Share it with your friends. And as always, remember there's nothing finer in the land
than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.